Hey, welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am, as always, Chat Show. How the hell are you? Seriously, how are you? I would like to know. So write us at kpcsfanmail@gmail.com and let me know how the fuck you are. How's your Feb going? And just life in general, good or bad. I want to hear it all. And then I'll read it and to myself in an email, and then it'll die there. No. Sometimes I'll bring it onto the show and I'll read your thoughts. For example, I'm a pencil artist from the UK and recently discovered your show. That's how you start a letter, ladies and Jews. All right, you've got my attention. You had me at pencil artist because there's a little confusion. Does this guy just draw pencils? The content is unlike any I've come across. The sheer volume of chat is the perfect antidote to hours and hours at the drawing desk after my day job as a postman. A volume that doesn't forfeit quality. As you've correctly identified, we Brits are not as familiar with Larry King as your native listenership. That said, I know who he is and enjoy the game, including the emphasis on the bad impression. My favorite was easily Bill Hader's, which was so on the money. I know, as you're an accomplished doer of impressions, you appreciated it too. Keep it up, and thanks, Alex Fleming. Thank you, Alex, all the way from the United Kingdom. I'm a pencil artist, and then he went on to say I'm a mailman. So I like that you're balancing those two careers. One of them for the love, I hope, and the other to study people's addresses and where they live. We're coming to you live today on pre-record at the Earwolf Studios on Sunset Boulevard. You know where we are. Come by and stop in. Ride the elevator short distance up and drop in and say hello to everyone that works at Earwolf. They'd love to see you and meet you and hear from you. Jamie and Sam are not here. I've given Jamie a chance to weigh in, letting her just know that that I'm sitting here with my guest, who she just texts back. He seems like a solid guy, like he'd have your back. I can't wait to ask him about that, because my first sense was coward. So we're going to get to the bottom of that. Again, write to us, kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. Recent guests, all right, I'll tell you. David Harbour, Brian Cranston, Christopher Guest, Lauren Graham, and Ricky Gervais. Upcoming guests, Pamela Adlon, Louis Anderson. Are you watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel? It's on Amazon Prime. Show won the Golden Globe and a Critics' Choice Award for Best Comedy, as well as picking up the Best Actress trophies in both of those award-giving places. I mention it because, I'm on the show. And we have our first tape read for season 2 in less than a month, and I'm beyond fucking excited. I've been gainfully employed now for many years. This September will be 35 years since I moved to Los Angeles. I was 7, and I've been gainfully employed for I'd say 30 of that, but rarely something that everyone is talking about with a smile. And certainly never been involved in something that won a Golden Globe, even though there are 89 voting members. You can win with about 30 votes, just to blow that up. But apparently it's a big fucking deal on television and around the United States of America, even though they're foreign press. Well, I'd like to thank the foreign press. And then I've been to other countries and they go, nah, we don't give a shit about the Golden Globe. My guest today, very exciting. We met each other. Well, I'll see his memory of where we met. I'll just introduce him and we'll jump right in, because I have so much to ask. Mr. Dan Van Kirk.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm good.
You've just come from recording your own damn show with the Sklar brothers.
Yes. Dumb People Town.
Gun to your head, which of the Sklar brothers do you prefer?
Jason.
That's right. That's the correct answer. I have it written down here.
Which one has the glasses?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yep. Also the correct follow-up. So what do you attribute the IMDb listing of your physique as being athletic?
No idea.
Also the correct answer. And what ultimately became of Michael Kisak if you had to guess?
Oh, the loneliest TSA?
Uh-huh.
He got let go.
Did he?
Yeah.
Where's he now?
Yeah. He's probably working at the Sbarro inside Midway Airport.
Also correct. You're 100%.
Thanks.
This is going well.
Good.
Folks, go to YouTube when you're done listening to this and check out the loneliest TSA guy
Yeah.
on DVK. Was that the name of
Yeah,
the?
it was the sketch show.
On the Nerdist.
Matt Bronger is in it, and Steve Agee.
Yeah.
Well, some other great people.
Fucking funny sketch stuff, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. So do you have my back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am that type of
Are
guy.
you that guy? Mm-hmm. She read that right?
Yep.
Okay. And
Yeah,
where does that come from? Does that come from Rochelle, Illinois?
I think so. The Sklar's always say that I'm life's bouncer. That I'm constantly saying, like, we good here? Everything good? I will insert myself into an altercation to make sure that it's... One time, Randy Sklar and I were getting food for some shindig at his house. We came outside of the Gelson's in Silver Lake.
But now you're just bragging.
Heard a scuffle to our left. Well, because it seems very out of character for the neighborhood. Two grown men, not young. Where
40s, 50s?
Yeah, I would say late 40s. In a fist fight.
Already funny.
I went to go make sure it was a fair fight. One of the guys suplexed the other guy into the sidewalk.
Suplex?
And I did not have an issue with them fighting.
What's a suplex?
Like kind of like a headlock, and then you grab the waist and you tilt all the way up and come all the way down.
That's a wrestling move.
Yeah.
It's called suplex.
Yeah.
And is it from collegiate wrestling or is it from the show business wrestling?
You can do a form of it in traditional like amateur wrestling. The difference is a lot of people I'm sure are already nodding their heads. But the big difference in professional wrestling versus competitive amateur wrestling is any throw you do to a person, you have to go with them.
Yeah.
So in the Olympics and stuff, if you pick a guy up and throw him to the ground, you have to go with him to the ground, or girl, depending on the match. So this guy had picked him up, put him up, and then dropped him all the way down and went with him. And I just wanted to make sure it was a fair fight. That was my whole thing.
That was your knee jerk.
Yeah, because I would have intervened if it was not a fair fight. So yeah, I would definitely have your
So
back.
you got close. You found that it was a fair fight?
Randy stayed back.
Sure, of course. The Jew.
Infer that, would you like? And he was like, Dan, don't go near that. Dan. And I'm like, I need to make sure it's a fair fight. It was a fair fight. So then I'm like, we're good. We can go on our way.
So you raced up to it, saw that it was a fair fight,
Right.
said nothing,
No.
just backed away.
Yeah. But I'm good for like, hey, knock it off. Like, I'll tell people. So yeah, if we were in a situation, and somebody was accosting you and it wasn't fair, or I felt that you just needed to know that you had a presence of someone else there at your back, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Sure.
I wouldn't even think about it.
And I suggested that comes from being raised in Rochelle, Illinois, and your instinct immediately was, yeah, I think so.
I think so.
And
it's just a small town community in northern Illinois where I would like to think people look out for each other.
Did you see any of that growing up?
Fighting? Just between
People
my
looking out
mom
for
and
each
her
other.
husband. Huh?
People looking out for each other.
Oh, yeah, a ton.
You said my mom and her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, like, hey, that's not a fair fight. But, but no, I think, yeah, because we moved in with my grandma and we lived with my two younger brothers, and next door, my mom and myself, and then my two younger brothers moved in with my grandma after my grandpa passed away, and next door was my aunt and uncle and their three kids.
Next door.
Literally next door. So I grew up in a very look out for each other, we're all in this together
Right.
type of atmosphere. So yeah, I would never like leave somebody out to dry.
No.
No.
It doesn't make any sense.
Is that crazy?
I don't think so. I think it's I agree that it's from the neighborhood you come from.
Yeah.
I agree that it's what there's a certain there's certain DNA involved for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it was easy to shit on Randy and his Jewishness as a member of the tribe. Mm-hmm. But we were Reformed Jews, Catholic.
Yes.
Basically. But yeah, the salt of the earth, have your back, comes from, I don't think it's crazy to say middle America.
Yeah, I wouldn't know any different.
Yeah, I mean, there might be some people in Vermont that feel the exact same way.
I lived in downtown LA for like 6.5 years, and there's a lot of that, like, not my problem
Yes.
attitude. And I know there's, in my times in New York, there's a lot of that where like, I don't care. That's not bothering me. That's not directed at me. And so I have seen that a lot and been like, how does nobody care that this is happening right here?
Well, so there's a lot of noise.
Right.
Yeah, I never know. My brain doesn't click quickly enough to decide when to get involved.
Mine goes too fast, I think.
I walked this morning to get coffee. There's a fairly new place near where we live, and I walked to get coffee. And on the walk back, it's a little bit of a gentle incline. And I saw a thin woman carrying two bags that she looked like plastic bags from your CVS.
Mm-hmm.
And as I got closer, I saw in the left hand, also holding a bag, was a bottle, mostly full but opened, of a brown hooch of some kind. Mm-hmm. And she started to wobble a little bit. Mm-hmm. And as I passed by her, in my brain is, you need to ask her if she's okay. She went to CVS
Sure.
and has already cracked open this bottle.
Right.
You need to see if maybe there's a meeting you can take her to, or where she,
Right.
all of those thoughts as I walked around her, past her, and continued on to my home.
Yeah.
And did absolutely nothing. And still clearly feel not great about that.
Yeah. What would you have liked to have done in the least? You okay, just been like, you good? Something like that? Even if the least of what you would have liked to have done would just been like, you all right?
Well, I thought that through also as I was walking. Just check in on her.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, don't do that unless you're really ready to stop your life and help her with
point.
everything she needs right now.
Yeah.
Because you don't know anything about her. She may be on the way through her
Right.
journey
Right.
to so-called rock bottom.
Sure.
And also, who the fuck are you?
Well, see, that's the other thing. So I
Yeah.
think there's a difference between inserting and imposing.
Right.
So if I said to her, you good?
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm fine. All right, cool. Then I'll leave. I asked you, you said you were fine. I'm leaving it at that.
Sure.
I don't then go, well, you don't look like that's when you
God,
start
no.
imposing
God,
your.
no. But no, I just mean, having had friends who've gone through rock
Yeah.
bottom and are thriving in a program. Man, oh man, can you not lead a horse? I mean, you can lead a
Isn't
horse.
that the craziest thing about people with addiction?
Yeah.
When they tell you what got them there, sometimes it's like the smallest thing.
Right.
And people had tried or said things, or they got fired or lost a gig or whatever.
Several.
But sometimes it was like Hardwick talks openly about it,
Yep.
that Marin just started asking him questions at, I think, I'm going for the trifecta here of name dropping, Zach Galifianakis' 4th of July party.
Sure.
And it was just Mark asking him just a few questions that made him really be like, yeah, what the fuck? But it wasn't somebody being like, I'm here to fix you. It's always interesting to me. You're saying like she's on her own journey, seemingly, to make a presumption downward, that it's going to be something. It could have been you being like, you okay? But it probably wouldn't have been. Right?
Well,
you know what I mean?
To me, that would be ego. If I said, "Are you okay?"
That is ego.
Thinking this might be the thing, then that's all narcissism,
Right?
For sure.
But yeah, but
also,
that's a tough call.
I just
you were assuming,
overthought it.
Yeah.
I overthought it as I was rounding her.
See, this is going to sound self-serving.
Sure.
But another story. So I lived in Chicago for 10 years. I get off the red line stop up on Sheridan Avenue, and I start walking to my place. And as I'm walking, and it's like a 93-degree summer Chicago day. So humidity is 120%. It is hot out. And I'm walking, and there's a frail, elderly woman, very elderly, sitting in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. I'd say upwards of like late 80s, early 90s. Sitting in a wheelchair, and I can see her maybe about 20 yards, and everybody's just walking past her. And as I walk past her, I look, and she just looks like not comfortable. And I take about 10 steps, and then I think, we're all just walking past that woman. And that doesn't seem that that's planned, whatever's happening there. So I went back and I said, hi, miss, how are you? And then she was kind of out of it a little bit. And I said, do you are you supposed to be out here? I don't know, she says. And now there is like a retirement community between the L stop and my place. So I go, well, is it okay if I take you for a walk? And she barely answers. So then I push her to the retirement community place, assisted living, and I open up the door, and the door opens, and they go, there you are.
And they were talking to you.
Yes.
About you.
I've lived there, commuting now. They have a branch here. But they had been looking for her for like an hour.
Jesus. By the way, how horrible are they at looking for people?
I agreed. But how long was she going to sit out there, and how many people were just going to be like, that doesn't look right, but you know what? Not my deal.
Right.
And you know, I'm sure I've done that many times as well, which is why I'm uncomfortable with how it sounds self-serving. But yeah, there's that stuff where you think like, am I willing to dedicate how much time this is going to take? Because what if she says to you, I'm not doing good. Can you help me out?
Yeah.
Well, now you're canceling this recording.
Yeah, I mean, I overthought it in terms of checking in.
Mm-hmm.
You good? And then I thought, even that's judgmental. You good?
Yeah, a little bit, but that's okay.
But
you made a judgment.
It depends
call.
on where your heart
Sometimes
is.
the judge is, the verdict is correct.
Yeah, and
Still
also
judging.
I just felt like it depends on where your heart is, and if your heart isn't going the full distance with the question,
right,
not knowing the answer, then she's making it up the hill just okay with those 2 bags. And why don't you fuck off for a second?
Now, what if you walked by? Here's the difference to me.
Sure.
We are assuming a problem, right? We have good evidence for it, but we're assuming it. What if when you would walk by, one of those bags broke and all of her stuff fell out? You're going to stop and help her pick it up?
Of course.
There you go. That's the difference. The one is an obvious issue that you would say, I got your back. And the other is presuming an issue, how much do I want to have this
It seemed intrusive and judgmental to see a bottle in her hand with the CVS bags and say, are you okay?
Right.
Because I see an open bottle of liquor there, and I've come from the Mormon church.
Yeah.
That's where my overthinking it took me.
Maybe it's
who the fuck are you to stop this woman and ask her if she's okay? Leave her alone.
I agree.
She's got bags.
Maybe
in her hand.
it's
she just did some shopping.
Maybe it's like a pleasantry.
Sure.
Hey, how's it going?
After the fact.
Yeah.
Or if I'm Dan Van Kirk and I have people's back. That's what I say as I walk by.
Well, you know what? It flatters me to a very high end that that's what somebody thinks of me.
Yeah.
Because I would like to be that person.
Siblings, you said 2?
Yes, Matthew and Vance.
And they are where?
Both in Northern Illinois, in and around Rockford, Illinois.
Uh-huh.
And everybody else is still in Rochelle. Everybody.
And you go back for Thanksgiving?
I go back a lot. Yeah, I go back.
Maybe too much.
It could be debated. Yeah, because I go back Thanksgiving and Christmas. Then I go back a minimum of 2 to 3 times in the summer because we have a little shack of a cottage in Wisconsin. And then usually doing comedy.
What happens at the shack in Wisconsin?
Oh, just the best stuff.
Like
it's well, I do a guys' weekend there every single year with all the guys I grew up with. There's like 16 of us in that group.
In the little shack?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, some people have to bring tents.
And there is fishing, hiking?
Yeah, fishing. There's no real hockey. I mean, you could walk around the lake or go for a walk in the woods. A lot of playing cards, campfires.
What kind of cards?
Euchre.
Sure.
Do you play euchre?
Don't know what it is.
Oh, but you got my heart up there.
I did. I saw your eyes dance.
I know. Rummy. You play like gin rummy?
Uh-huh.
Yes. And then
you play 3-3. 3?
What? No. What's
10 card, 7 card rummy?
Oh, well, if you're 2 people, it's 9 each.
Sure.
And then if there's more than 2, 3 to 4, and you can't play more than 4 really, it's 7 cards each because you're dealing half the deck. But yeah, a lot of cards, a lot of
and these guys
oldies music.
Grew up with or college?
Yeah, we've all known each other for I think a minimum of like 20 years. Some as many as 31 years of friendship.
Because you're what age?
37.
Correct. Also had that down.
Oh, good. So yeah, I started that like 10, 12 years ago. I just realized at that age, people start getting, at least in the Midwest, people are married or getting married, moving on to their careers, being what they're going to want to be in this world, hopefully. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't want to like just see you guys at funerals and divorce parties eventually. So let's start doing a thing where we get together once a year, put it on the calendar like it's a wedding, like you have to go to it.
Right.
And we've done it for 12 years. And outside of that, it's all just family. Like in what is it, Labor Day, there's the Brat Fest, which
Sure.
is the most on-brand thing for Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of brandy old fashions and decks of cards and tombstone pizzas.
And these are just guys?
That's for that one weekend. But other than that, it's all family. So yeah, I do go back a lot to see them.
Right.
Grandma and my mom and aunt and uncle and anybody who wants to come. And then I end up, for doing comedy, that's the great thing about what we do. I'm either in at least once a year, if not twice a year, I'm in Madison and or Chicago. So that's close enough to add a day or two to see the family then.
To do shows?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you do shows, are you touring as a solo?
Yeah.
Have you done the Improv in Schaumburg?
Yeah, no, I have not. I've done shows at Zany's in Rosemont.
Uh-huh.
And then there's a spot on North Avenue in Chicago called At North Bar. And it's a great venue. And I've just worked out like a door deal with them and try to do a show there at least once a year. Just do like two shows in a night, or
So cool.
yeah, Friday and Saturday night.
And what sports growing up?
Football, wrestling, track.
Sure. Again, with the athletic build.
Trying.
Athletic physique is what it says
Really?
on IMDb.
Let's not
Well, it
change it.
says physique,
Athletic.
colon, or is it semi with
Don't you think in like 30 pounds I will be?
In 30 pounds?
Yeah, if I lose the 30 pounds I will be, then it'll be right.
I just think you turn that weight into muscle.
Oh,
I don't think you need to actually lose it. I think you
either way.
just transform it.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Maybe a little less helping out people and a little more concentration on you. Maybe a little more
Helping
you
me?
time. Yeah.
Helping me?
Yeah.
Ask the guy in the mirror how he's doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to cry today.
You're gonna.
How did we meet?
Do you remember?
I think
Okay.
it was bowling.
Yeah.
Okay. But there was a time that I'd forgotten about bowling and thought we met after one of those shows I did with our mutual friend Cole Stratton on the West Side Comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Like we did Ken Kratz, like making a murderer spoof thing, and I played Ken Kratz. And I know that I said hello to you after one of those shows, but I think I'd forgotten that a year earlier we had gone bowling multiple times.
Yes. Well, I those are all true.
Yeah.
I remember the making the murderer thing and the wig, and Jamie and I thought we loved the whole thing, but your character in particular was so perfectly.
Oh, thanks.
Oh man.
Do you know what I love?
Please.
And this proves it out. Comedy festivals.
Yes.
Because it's our own little version of like Jewish summer camp. Where they
How would you know what
they let
that
some
is?
of us, oh my God, because you guys never stop talking about it. But you have these moments at festivals where you really get to hang out with each other.
Yeah.
And that's when you feel like, oh, that's when you validate your opinion of a person on stage. Or
Yeah.
or deval. You're like, oh, you're an asshole. But getting to do that sort of thing, I always come away from those having gotten to know 2 or 3 comics much better.
Yeah.
And like we had that great time hanging out at it was like a speakeasy casino hall thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
hearing you talk about how great the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, right? That's what it is.
Hearing me talk about it,
I loved asking you about
or
it.
just saying, "Look, I haven't been proud of something I'm involved in such a long
No,
time."
you know what? Can I say this?
Please.
You said so many times, my role as an actor for so much of my career has been the lead says something.
No, I say to the lead in a 6-page scene,
Yes.
"What do you think we should do?"
Right.
And then the lead talks for 6 pages,
Right.
and I say, "Well, let's go."
Right. And you're acting the whole time. Obviously, I'm not telling you
Wonderfully.
anything you don't know. But hearing you talk about this project
Yeah.
and your ability to really go for some things in it and really act, like really get to be the words acting. There's something I just don't want to ever get over where I love hearing about people I like doing projects they love. Like that just feels good.
Yeah. Well, I've said it before on the show that our business, when you get into the acting especially,
Right.
because if you come from stand-up or sketch or improv, if someone offers you some stage time, you take it. It's always yes.
Always.
And you get into the acting and you accomplish something that people take notice of. And now you're no longer allowed to always say yes. Now you have to be careful about what you do.
Really?
Yes. And some people have knowed their way out of the business. To me, the best example would be, and I'm not calling anybody out because I'm being judgmental. After King of Comedy, Sandra Bernhard, who steals the film, and had come from pretty much obscurity prior, but from the stand-up world, was offered the moon and the sun in various ways.
Yeah.
And she said no. And there's a problem when you get into the acting thing where the machine gears up.
Yep.
And I think she was nominated, and there was all kinds of attention where there once wasn't.
Right.
Like I remember one of the very first real acting dramatic work I did was in Barry Levinson's movie Avalon, where he said to me in the middle of it, he said, you're and he's a guy of few words. He doesn't. In fact, I was just listening to, Tracy Letts.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
From the Chicago area, great playwright and actor. He was on Mark Maron. He was saying there's certain directors that don't give a lot of feedback, and you just keep moving along.
No news is good news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I fucked up my podcast. It was actually another great Chicago actor, originally from the UK, John Mahoney.
Yes.
And John Mahoney, they were doing a replay from 1990, fucking 28 years ago, with Terry Gross. And he was saying, when Barry Levinson directed him and somebody else directed him, and they didn't give any feedback, and he's an actor who doesn't need coddling, but after a take, he'd like to hear whether the director thought it was worth a damn.
Yeah.
Tracy Letts was talking about similar things to further explain my confusion. And so, he was saying that, and Barry Levinson's thing was if we're moving on to the next setup, that's his way of saying great job. Okay, we got that. We're moving on. And then you have to embrace that for like a standing ovation.
Yep.
Because he came from stand-up comedy also, and he was a great writer, and he just knows the rhythms of things, what they're supposed to sound like, more than what they're supposed to look like. And so when he hears everyone hit the rhythms right, let's move on. We got it.
That's
and
Barry.
Until we do, that's Barry. Yeah. So I Barry, in the middle of shooting Avalon, pulled me aside one day, and he knew I had come from stand-up, and I'd done a few things, but not much as an actor. And he said, when we're done, when this movie comes out, you may want to think about your next thing before you do it. You may want to just give it some thought. In other words, the next thing you do after this should not be hijinks, should not involve hijinks or shenanigans.
Now, what did that say to you?
He thought my dramatic acting was good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. He saw your performance. He knew what it was going to look like when it got cut together. He saw takes he knew he was going to want to use.
Yeah, and I knew that I'd been hired because he loves having one or two comedians in every one of his movies. Mm-hmm. And if you look back at all of his films, I mean, even all of them, there's a comedian in almost every one of them. And very early on, Paul Reiser was in Diner, Barry's first written and directed, and highly recommend anyone who hasn't seen it. It's a young Mickey Rourke, it's a young Kevin Bacon and Danny Stern and all these great guys. The Gutenberg. And he just has this natural, like when people started to make a thing out of Tarantino, they said he writes like Barry Levinson wrote in Diner. It's all very conversational. Very. Like the opening of Pulp Fiction, when they take the guns out of the trunk and they're going to Brett's apartment. Yeah. We'd never seen two hitmen. Actually, they're driving in the car first, and they're talking about the burgers in France. Mm-hmm. Royale. Right, the burger instead of
it's Royale with cheese.
Royale,
but
with
even
cheese.
like Reservoir, you had 7 people, just a dialogue of we don't even know what the fuck this movie's about. Yeah.
Right, that's exactly right. So when Barry said that to me, I'd been hired because I was a comedian who felt comfortable and natural in front of a camera, didn't freak out, and all the other actors in that movie came from a lot from Chicago theater. Mm-hmm. The Goodman with Elizabeth Perkins and Aidan Quinn. And so I was just I could be loose and natural because having come from stand-up all those years, cameras didn't really intimidate me.
Right.
I'd been hired, so onus is off me. That's on you, Barry, for hiring me.
That's a great point.
If I don't do this right.
Isn't there something, too, also to stand up? I'm not breaking any new ground here, but we get the ability of – Pete Holmes said people come up to him after shows and say, people always tell me I'm just as funny as you are. We were on a road trip, and I told these jokes that were like the funniest jokes I ever heard. And Pete goes, I believe you. I believe you that we're really funny in that car ride. Being a stand-up comedian means, can you be that funny tomorrow at 8 o'clock?
Yeah, and the next night at 11.
And so for us, stand-up, when do you want us to hit it?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So you already, like that fear of like, oh, I hope I'm going to do this. Well, that's when I'm supposed to do it.
Yes.
And I've been doing it on stage at this time. I know to be funny from 8:15 to 8:47 tonight.
Yeah.
And we can just, so that I think that really helps so many stand-ups transition to knowing when to bring it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you said you were very loose because it was on him that he hired you, and you were not intimidated by...
Just the idea, though, that be careful what the next thing you do is. In other words, you've got an investment now in your future with this performance.
Yeah.
And it's going to shed new light on whatever career you're going to have as an actor. And it did. The movie made $9, but the industry took notice of it.
There's always two audiences.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a really, really big deal, but it was about, but it was the beginning of another lesson, which I first started talking about, which is treating your career like a porcelain egg and too careful, as opposed to, because again, comedians, you say yes to everything. And in fact, after A Few Good Men, when I got offers instead of having to audition, I was saying yes to everything because I couldn't believe offers were coming in.
Right.
And then after many years, I got to the point where I said, sometimes you just got to make the donuts. Why aren't we allowed to work for a living?
Yeah.
Why does everything we do have to be amazing? Guess what? It's not going to be amazing. So, I've been gainfully employed all these years. Every now and then, something of note will pop up that people will talk about, but not to the level of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And that's 17 minutes later. I get to the point of the fucking conversation.
That's what we're here for, isn't it?
Well, we're here for you to get to the point. And thank you for indulging.
I think people are having parties.
For?
Your show. Well, they'll dress in your...
No, that's not true.
Oh, I could show it to you in 3 seconds.
You mean on your phone?
Mm-hmm. People having, like, parties...
It's the first time hearing this.
Yeah, like era parties of that, like women getting together and then, like, watching the show.
There's been, again, that's a first.
Because to be a part of a project that's like part of the zeitgeist
is weird and wonderful.
Industry and audience.
Yeah. It's the first time I was introduced to Rotten Tomatoes because everything I'd been on that was a possible measuring tool, I stayed away from.
Really? Looking
at what the numbers were.
You know where I just saw you?
Please.
I find out so many people that I'm friendly with, even close friends with. I said to Rory Scovel once, I said, dude, if I told you I was on the last 2 seasons of Two Broke Girls, could you argue with me? He's like, no. I wouldn't even know.
NCIS.
No. Oh. Mom.
Yes.
Yeah. I was in a hotel doing a gig, had time to kill.
Sure.
I either watch, like, you can't figure out the channels ever.
Nope.
I know that's some old bit. But, I end up watching, like, shows I've never seen before or Naked and Afraid. And... you weren't on Naked and Afraid.
Weirdly.
Not yet. And you were great.
Well, thanks.
That show allows people to get a little dramatic.
Yeah. Yeah, it
backdoors in some like acting scenes to an audience that I don't think always necessarily signed up for that.
Didn't.
But that's what makes it great.
I think so.
Yeah.
They just had a big party celebrating 100th. Yeah, I did 15 episodes between season 1 and 2. I came in halfway through the first season, and then through the first half of the second season. It was a really interesting experience. I loved, the actors and all that, and the process too. It's weird. Stand-up comedians and even improv and sketch performers, we're kind of, if we have any acting aspirations, we are so overqualified to be in a sitcom.
Yeah.
Multiple camera, live audience, and multiple takes. It was like the best of all worlds.
Yeah. Instant
like-
feedback with the ability to nail
do it again.
Yeah.
And also have the writers get together, huddle, and come over and throw new lines at you and try it in the second take in front of the audience. Yeah, I enjoyed that part of it. The hours were great. The Chuck Lorre of it all was a problem for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
So, but that happens.
yeah.
But now, Amy Sherman-Palladino and Dan Palladino, who created and run The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, are angels. And everyone that works on the show is, we're only at 8 episodes in. We'll see what second
I know,
season
but congrats
brings.
on being bumped up.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I'm trying to direct this movie that I wrote in the fall. So when they called and said, they want to pin you for a handful of episodes in season 2, because I was recurring in season 1. And at the end of the season, Amy and Dan were nice, to give gifts and a card. See you next year, but you don't know. As recurring,
I know.
You don't know. So it worked out differently when I wasn't going to be as available, and Amy is so unbelievably sweet and funny.
Yeah.
Even her reply to me about being made series regular was like, I said, "Oh, I guess you want me in New York more than I thought," and she wrote, "I'm an only child. I want what I want."
That's great.
Yeah,
That's a great reply.
It's just such an amazing way to put it.
And it makes it personal. She wanted you in this show.
Yeah, and but also, I understand you're not going to be available because you think you're going to be directing a movie in the fall. But we've written you. We want to write your character into
More.
these episodes. Yeah. So fuck you if you think you're getting out of this. It was kind of sweet and funny. And so now you're in a spot now where you've had people see your talent, want to tap into it. We mentioned the DVK a couple of years ago at Nerdist. Mm-hmm. Somebody said, give this guy his own fucking sketch show.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And you've created indelible characters along the way, one of which, of course, I got to share the stage with you at Sketchfest just 3 weeks ago, maybe. The Wahlberg Solution.
Uh-huh.
What is the origin of you and that impression?
I started working at Second City about 10 years ago, maybe a little less. And I was just hired as a usher, like whether you're making nachos or you're not a server, but you're just kind of like the support staff for the...
With the thought of...
Yeah, I had actually already been in LA, but kind of half-assed it for 2 years, and then went back to Chicago for a year. And it was just through Craigslist that I got that job. But I've always found I'm not a big, like The Secret thing, or I'm not a big Mr. Destiny, although I love that movie type thing.
Yeah.
But anytime I've gone towards comedy in my life or pursued performing, it's worked out.
Because you applied yourself?
That could probably be a lot of it. But also it just seems that chances seem to, like, what were the odds when I went back to Chicago with not knowing what I was going to do, that the Craigslist ad I replied to was Second City, and then I would get that job, and then every night watch some of the best sketch in this country.
But you went to Craigslist looking for a job.
Yeah.
And you saw that one.
It didn't say Second City.
What did it say?
I think it was just a theater usher. And I thought, well, that's close enough. I have this thing that no matter how, if it's not true north, get the arrow going that direction as much as you can. Like Conan O'Brien was on Charlie Rose, and he said that people always come up to him and say, I'm going to be on your show someday. And he says, for what? And they don't really have an answer, which speaks to our society of you're just famous for being famous.
Yeah.
And he said, identify the thing you want to do with your life and then go to the place where they make that. Whether that's crayons or Kool-Aid, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When you get there, do whatever you can to be around that, whether that's making coffee or taking out the trash. Because he just believed in the proximity of molecules.
Yeah.
And if you're a good person and you work hard and you can get that arrow in that direction of north as much as possible, it's going to work out. There's no thing that says you're going to get to be on stage at the Golden Globes, but you probably won't hate your life either. So it was like a theater thing, and I thought that's close enough, and it ended up being Second City. And then within 3 months of being there, I got asked to do this very small weekly show in the DeMott Theater. But as I think I said off mic before we started, Bob Odenkirk has a thing that says, when you get to LA, no one cares what you did at Second City. It just matters you were here, is essentially what his quote is. So I remember I had just started. I had seen The Happening and screwing around, as you do when you're on any menial job. Well, this one just happens to be one of the best theaters in the country. I just started doing that scene where he lies to Zooey Deschanel. Mark Wahlberg lies to Zooey Deschanel about being sick. And he says, the other day, I went into the drugstore and I walked up to buy like something to eat. And the girl goes, are you sick? And I said, yes, but I wasn't sick. So then I bought cough drops. And then she looked at me and I looked at her and I smiled. And Zooey Deschanel says, they're standing in the middle of a field, right? That movie. Zooey Deschanel, and that isn't even the exact dialogue, but who cares? Zooey Deschanel says, is that true? And he looked at her and he goes, no.
Okay. That scene, that moment, is the perfect example of a complete and total horseshit piece of work from beginning to end, and what an extraordinary waste of time it is.
Yeah.
And now having directed and knowing that it is an insane amount of work. Mm-hmm. The fact that anything gets made is a miracle.
Sure.
Don't judge any of this unless you've done it.
Right.
You've got your opinion.
Right.
And good luck with it. But everyone who worked on The Happening
knew what was
busted their ass.
Oh, for sure.
And put in all they could to make that happen.
Right.
In spite of the fact that had they read the script, unless it changed wildly because I never read the script, everyone must have known, oh my God.
Right.
This is The Emperor's Clothing.
Right.
This is fucking
I think of
pointless.
scenes like that in movies or storytelling, I call them like stirring the soup scenes. All you're doing, you're not eating the soup. You're not actually making the soup any colder. You're not serving the soup to anybody else. You're just stirring it. So we don't need stirring soup scenes. And all you're doing, there's no reason for that scene to be in that movie.
Yeah, there's no reason for it, and it's pointless in itself.
Right. So I am not an impressionist. I would love to be. But the ability that I'm sure you have, and obviously like James Adomian has, where they can look at a person and be like, oh, that's how they break it down and then they do it. For me, a voice will just kind of like work its way into my head, and then I realize, oh, I can talk like that person. But none of it was deliberate, although very willingly, but not deliberate. And so I just started all the time. I would just talk like this. I just found out all I had to do was go back. And you know, I don't know about you, but some people who do impressions have like gateway, like you say that sentence and then you're in.
The key that opens.
Yes. And so for me, it was the other day, right? And so flash forward to, and this is actually, I'll get to this question I had for you because I just want to pick your brain about something. But flash forward to, I did a year at Second City, and then I came back to LA, fully committed. The relationship from Second City allowed me to get an internship at UCB. So within 2 weeks of being here, I was interning on Tuesday nights, doing what Conan O'Brien said, cleaning the toilets before every night of shows, vacuuming the theater. And, it's just happened to be Tuesday night. So it's Comedy Death Ray, then Bang Bang, then first Doug Loves Movies, then Comedy Death Ray, and then Diamond Lion most times, which was a musical improv. So I'm seeing literally almost all types of comedy, because sometimes there's sketches in Death Ray, improv, stand-up, obviously, in one night. In what in that time was one of the hottest nights of comedy in this city and that place. And for 14 months, that's just all I did. And throughout that, meeting Scott Aukerman and then Jeff Ulrich, I got an internship about 5, 6 months, 7 months into that internship at UCB. Got an internship here.
At Earwolf.
At Earwolf. Found out the Sklar's were looking for someone to help them write jokes or find stories for their show. Badgered the people who worked here until they let me meet them. Met them, started writing jokes for them, and then there was an engineer here by the name of Dustin and an engineer here by the name of Cyrus, and the two of them, one recorded it, and then the other one, I think it was Cyrus, was like to the Sklar's after one show, like, oh, do you guys want to hear this thing Dan did? And I just recorded these voicemails from Mark Wahlberg, and it was, again, you'll see how there's no magic to it. They started out like this. The other day, I went to the park, and there was a hole in the park, and there were some kids there, and their hands were dirty. And I was like, kids, did you dig this hole? And they're like, we didn't dig that hole. And I said, yes, you did. I played a cop before. I know how 2 and 2 works. And I told him, dig that hole, or you're never coming to this park again. Beep, out. And then from that, the Sklar's put it in because they like characters. And it kind of became a thing I had to do more and more. And I think at some point somebody was like, if you were going to do your own show, is this what would you do? I'm like, well, I think it'd be hilarious if he hosted Politically Incorrect. And then had other people come do their characters. And Wahlberg is just the vehicle for this. He thinks, I've got the answers. And so I ran that for like a year at UCB, and now I pretty much only do it once a year at Sketchfest. But
it progressed to a point where chances are high he's heard about it, or do you fact know?
Yeah, he definitely has. Paramount wanted him and I to do something for the first or second Transformer movie that he did. And so and it was in conjunction with Nerdist. So Hardwick and I got together and he thought of this amazing idea where Mark is taking acting classes to be more Mark Wahlberg. And so I would then get to be myself and then be like, no, Mark, when you say the line, it needs to be more like, where are you going? And so I would be able to drop into it, and he would, kind of play off, make fun of himself a little bit. And he turned it down. But it went as far as Paramount bringing me to watch footage of the movie before it was released.
So have you met
Mark? No. And you know what I would tell him? I'd be interested to hear what you think of this. If I ever met him, first of all, I never try to do anything that would hurt anybody's feelings. And I doubt he's a person that would admit that if something hurt his feelings. But if he said to me like, hey man, that bothers me that you do that, I'd probably never do it again. Because I'm just not in it for that, to like make somebody feel shitty.
Sure.
And I doubt he would ever admit that. I would tell him, I hope you understand, one of all, fan of yours. Secondly, I hope you understand I'm doing a character with your name who sounds like you, and that's pretty much it. That's it.
Yeah.
That it's a character. You know what I mean? Like what Will Ferrell did with Robert Goulet. That's not Robert Goulet. He was able to take a thing and then make a whole character around it. So, I know he knows about it. I know he turned it down.
Uh-huh.
But I did it for his brother, Paul. I was in Boston and went to Wahlburgers, and the guy I was with was like, he doesn't impress your brother. And his brother, Paul, was like, well, let me hear it, dude. So I did it, and he's like, you took a shot. Which is like...
That was the review?
Yeah, you took a shot. Which I was like, oh, if I sucked, you would say that sucked. But you don't want to say I sound exactly like your world-famous brother and then encourage it.
Also, who was your friend who suggested that you do it for Paul?
Oh, God, I can't remember who I was with. It's a producer at Nerdist, and I feel horrible for Johnny Wickham.
Yeah, Johnny, maybe Paul's had that exact same situation happen 748,000 times.
Yeah.
Hey, my buddy here does your
especially,
brother. Yeah. So maybe that wasn't a great move.
Probably. Paul was very, very nice.
Sure, of course.
Very, very, he's a very nice guy.
While being confronted by two idiots at his burger place.
Exactly.
One of which claims to do a world-class impression.
Right.
So, it didn't matter how good it ended up being.
That's what I think, too. Yeah, that was irrelevant.
Also, I've spoken about there's almost no point in doing it for the person.
I agree with that as well.
Yeah. But
you should do it for the people that person knows.
Well, I broke it down finally, and I talk about this a little bit in the act. It's because it took me forever to realize this. It's a parlor trick.
I agree.
If I can think of someone you like, and I can recreate them in front of you, I will actually steal the affection you have for the real person.
Mm-hmm.
That's a scientific breakdown of what doing an impersonation is.
Right.
There's no more to it.
Do you do them in your act?
Than that. Do I do what?
Impressions in your act?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah, of course.
I didn't know.
Oh, okay. Well, initially it was all I did.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I started. Yeah, before I had something to talk about.
Yeah.
But over the years, Like when we worked on A Few Good Men, I would never, ever cross my mind to bug Nicholson. This is what you sound like, even though I've been doing him in my act for a dozen years. On very few occasions have they found out, and it's gone well.
Right.
Like Alan Arkin, who I've talked about endlessly about doing him and his appreciation of it and so on and so forth. But, yeah, so doing it for they almost never think they sound that way, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
You're tapping into something in their personality that they don't.
And they haven't identified, nor do they care to look at.
Right. And if your interest is in making it funny, not them, but it,
right,
then it's never going to be flattering.
Right.
Really.
Right. But I love that you call it a parlor trick.
It is.
Because that's what I think too. And to me, for as fragile as my ego obviously is, the best compliment I can get is if when I've done Doug Loves Movies for another comic on that show to go, dude, that was actually really funny. Because I could just, and you know this too, I could go out there and just say lines from Boogie Nights and crush.
Mm-hmm.
Have I done any comedy? No.
Yeah.
And
thank you for not doing that.
Yeah. Well, because you get it too, though.
Yeah.
That's just so hack. That's an impersonator, and that's what you go to Vegas for.
Well, but it's also
the difference between a character and an impersonator.
Yeah. It also undermines the so-called art form of doing comedy. I've mentioned this a few times on the show also, and the listeners have now had it with that qualifier because I even say that too much.
What's the qualifier?
I've talked about this on the show before.
That doing impressions undermines comedy?
No, just as a qualifier. I've talked about this on the show before.
Fair enough. Yes. Yeah. I do that too.
I guess because it's just hyper aware of, I don't want anyone to ever sit there and think,
he doesn't know he said this.
He doesn't realize he already fucking talked about this 17 times. Well,
but you know what I say to those people?
What?
If you've listened to this show long enough, you probably think of us as friends. And friends talk about the same shit all the time.
There you go. I'm going to remember that and steal it. Ours is the weird profession that people get to do and at parties without even thinking about it. They'll tell a joke. Oh, I heard this thing.
Yeah.
The way friends communicate are quotes from movies and TV.
Yeah.
Jamie and a few friends just talk Simpsons quotes and Seinfeld quotes. That's the only way they communicate. They'll text each other random quotes all fucking day long and make each other laugh. So, you know, they're for those of us who dedicated our lives to it, it's not a thing to dabble with at a party.
Right.
And why is no one dabbling in dentistry at the party? Why is our profession something that everyone kind of does?
Right.
And therefore, yeah, if you spend your life trying to hone and mature and evolve into better and better and better and better, more interesting and so on and so forth, the idea that someone could go up to Paul Wahlberg and say, my friend here does a great impression of, that's the dabbling at a party.
Right.
And when so I went down the YouTube rabbit hole a little bit of watching you doing Wahlberg.
Yeah, I think the set list is out there.
Yeah.
And there's other ones.
Set list was great. Set list was amazing. Yeah, there is something about the if you can throw it away, if the impression is conversational, that's what makes me lose my mind with happiness.
Really?
Like I did there's probably 20-something episodes somewhere on iTunes called Talkin' Walkin', and it's just me and someone else sitting around shooting the shit. And inexplicably, I speak only as Christopher Walken. We never reference him or me. It's just two guys talking. My dinner with Andre, only Andre talks like Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
I think actually I just looked it up. Scott Aukerman was in the last episode of it. But the idea was that it was just we were talking about minutia. And that still intrigues me to no end. That if like probably what works about Wahlberg Solution is that there are famous people who have gathered to talk about
everyday
topics, but really minutia crap.
Right. So
I think we're on the same wavelength with that.
Yeah, it's just about making it that full character.
Yeah, but If it's conversational as opposed to pushing,
Right.
ugh, the pushing.
Do you take on?
But I don't. Also, I think earlier you said me or James.
Yeah, you
Finding
you're
someone
really good.
I too wait for a voice to come to me.
Oh, really?
I don't hear
James can like break it down.
Yeah,
and look
I'm
at
not
somebody
that
and be like,
guy.
oh, they do the and then they just like they put that equation into their brain, and out comes this ability to do it.
Yeah.
I'm
not a technician like that.
No, me either. So I don't feel like
there's a bit in my act
Like I can
now
do 'em.
about how I stumbled across a Liam Neeson impression when it never even crossed my mind to do him. I was just sent to the grocery store with a list of items, and as I'm driving in the car, as a man, I'd not written down the list.
sure.
So as I'm driving in the car, I was trying to remember the list. One of the items pops into my memory, and I say it out loud, alone, to the rearview mirror as Liam Neeson. And again, prior to that, it had never crossed my mind to impersonate him. I can't still explain why I looked in the mirror when I remembered the item and said, bananas. Now, I don't think any of us have seen Liam Neeson say bananas in a film.
We don't need to.
Ever.
Right.
So why did that
When you
happen?
do this bit on stage?
So this, I think I just did explaining to you,
is
the bit.
But that's why you're a comedian.
Right.
Because a person who can just talk like somebody's like, want to hear something?
Right.
And there's no
No.
life to it.
Right.
There's no thing to it.
Yeah.
See, I don't, unless I need to, or it depends on the audience, I don't do any characters in my stand-up. It feels...
Contrived?
No, I don't know. I think just so many years of sketch and doing characters in shows, it feels so clean
Too clean.
to just do this is just my voice. This is just my opinion.
Right.
I was at Comedy on State in Madison, and they one of the best clubs in the country, and they do themed drinks each weekend for the comics that's there. So I get done with my first set on Thursday night, and they go, "Great set, man." I think Joe's the guy who runs that room with the family, and I go, "Thanks." He goes, "But I tell you, we do themed drinks," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And he says, "Yeah, we put the Marky Mark as one of our drinks, and there's probably a room full of people right now that have no clue why that's on the menu." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I don't even." I'm like, "I can throw one in for you if you want to make sense." He's like, "I don't care. The set was great," but I didn't even think.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, I guess that's probably what industry-wise people be like. Oh, he'll come. He'll do some of his voices. He'll do some other stuff. But I was just straight doing a set.
Yeah.
But in the interest of full disclosure,
Sure.
to be completely, I don't know if it's vulnerable, but honest, you're established. Your voice as an actor and as a comic or who you are, so you've established that. Like you talk about the career and how to treat your career. I think I've established myself as doing characters. So when I do stand-up, I'm trying to establish that I can do a lot of things without a wig.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does.
You have that security. You're probably much more secure in your career and in your audience and your position than I would be at my place in my career. So I need people to be like, oh, it's more than the wig.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, when I do, for many years now, a show, if it's an hour, and I call it torturing the audience for the first 30 minutes by not doing any voices.
You can feel that they want it.
Well,
they know it.
I've
Like,
assumed,
yeah.
based on building a career
That's what I'm saying.
with these
yeah.
blocks, and I'm torturing them by talking about everything else. But they're laughing all the way through.
Sure. But they can't wait till you
But
get
it's
to the,
not
to the hits.
why they bought a ticket,
Yeah.
per se.
I struggle with that.
Well, also I'm more than a couple decades older. So
Okay. That's what I was going to ask you is,
how old I am?
no, it's irrelevant to me. How much of, you talked about like what to say yes to, like what to say no to. How much at your earlier days, let's go back like 20 years, even 25 years. So you're a good few years into doing it.
Well, 92, everything changed. So that's 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Because
And
A Few
then-
Good Men.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how much of care do you feel like you've given it to your own career of like what you said yes to and what you said no to that really dictated kind of the path that even got you to here today? Like, did you put a lot of care into it? Like, did you worry much about it 25 years ago or even 30 years ago before 1992 in 1987? Were you like... I'm
saying don't worry so much about it. I'm saying do things that grab you and say you should do this. And then it's okay if every now and then you have to work for a living.
Yeah.
You know, I'll see someone I used to see a famous person do something commercial and think, oh, what the fuck's the matter with him?
Right.
That guy gets every script. How did this movie get made? Right. I still do that every now and then because I've been writing and producing and whatever, and I know how hard it is to get something made. And I'll look at this movie and go, look at all these people in this film, and there's 4 of them have a pile of scripts.
Yeah.
How the fuck did this get made? So being on the other side of that, as a person who's supposed to be in quality control, it took me a while to realize sometimes you just got to make the donuts, and that's all there is to it. We're allowed to fucking work for a living.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Right.
And I've said no to things, of course, and I continue to. And every now and then someone will come up and I go, well, it's 2 days on this thing, and it's a bucket of money, and who gives a shit? Nobody's going to probably see it. And I'm literally making the donuts on this one. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's not because I'm older that I don't care. It's because I've experienced more that I don't care.
Right.
It's that you have to get to a point of comfort. First of all, you're being proactive in your own career, and that's everything. They didn't teach that when I got to town, and I'm surely they didn't teach it when you got to town.
No.
If you're not creating, you're waiting. That's been my mantra for 10 years. No one gives a shit about you and your career more than you should.
Right.
No one.
Right.
I don't care how many agents, managers you get. I don't even care how many people believe in you. On a daily basis, nobody wakes up and says, what can I do for Dan Van Kirk today? Not one person.
No.
Well, but that's the deal. So you've got to do that. And everyone has to do that. I don't care what your profession is or what your life is.
Yeah. You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah. That's right.
There's no entrepreneur in...
Sam, sorry to take you away. Is that mic hot?
Yours.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah. What's next for you? After this.
That's a good question.
Okay. And what's next for you like a year from now?
I'd like to write a cartoon.
Okay. Do you have one in mind?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. It's
and this has been something you've wanted to do for a while.
Yeah, it is. I'm learning how to record the audio here, and then I got to find somebody to draw it.
Okay, how's my part?
What's yours?
How's my part?
How's your part?
Not what is it?
Oh, it's incredible.
Okay,
it's all the roles.
When you're ready, I'm there for you.
The first line you have is, "What's the plan?"
Yep. Yeah. So I Sam's great.
Yes,
he's amazing.
I know.
I care about him, and I've never stopped and said, "What do you hope to be doing other than this?"
Right.
And it just happened.
Right.
And then we found out that Sam's being incredibly proactive in his life.
Right.
And his work.
But you're right. Nobody asks you.
That's right.
Because nobody really cares.
We're all sort of, not even selfishly.
I don't.
You have to keep focus on what the fuck you're doing.
Right.
Right. And I meant that, by the way.
I appreciate
when
that.
You're ready.
I will come calling.
For me, I'm there for you. Assuming it's going to be really, really good. So I don't know.
Maybe it'll just be some donuts.
And by the way, I might just have to make the donuts.
Right.
For Sam.
Right.
Hopefully they'll be tasty. Sam, I was told we need to get the fuck out of here. Is that your understanding as well? I was told for some reason 1 to 2, and we're past.
Oh,
no, no, that's not true at all. You have plenty of time.
I'm good whenever you're good.
So Sam, what if I was
plenty of
trying to get out?
Oh, we do have another show coming in.
No, but when they initially locked the studio for me, it was from noon to 2, and I reached out to you, Dan, and you said I'm doing a thing at noon, so I can't get there till 1. So I thought we were 1 to 2, and you're telling me otherwise, and that makes me happy. I
like that you said that about. Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
To not worry about being so precious. Be deliberate, but sometimes you're making donuts.
Know what you want to do.
Right.
No, and pursue that, and make your own shit happen. And then when opportunities come up, they don't all have to be perfect, amazing, and what you even want to be doing.
Did you ever have to categorize that for yourself? Like, were you ever like, I want to do stand-up and be a guy who does impressions, and then I will also direct, and I want to be an actor? Or did it start at one point, and then you branched out after you succeeded in that thing? You're like, this is what I want to do.
I knew I wanted to be an actor when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I would go to movies and be lost in the magical world. And then when I was old enough to understand that there were people up there acting, I said, that's the life. I'm 10 years old. I know from nothing, but that seems amazing.
So you would say you're an actor who loves stand-up?
No. So then I'm 16. I get sidetracked into stand-up from comedy albums.
Yep.
And I'm actually way before 16. I'm lip-syncing a comedy album. The first comedy album from who we now know to be one of the more, well, I'm going to say successful serial rapists in history.
Yeah.
So
He's definitely succeeded.
Yeah, because he's not been actually charged
Right.
with anything. I wish they'd put in the liner notes of his first album. Hey, 10-year-old.
Right.
This guy's drugging and raping.
You're going to regret this inspiration someday.
Yeah. So actually from the age 10 to 16, all those 6 years, I'm out there lip syncing the No and the Arc routine. And I just got sidetracked into the world of stand-up comedy. I started collecting comedians the way my friends collected baseball cards. And then I found that I could actually do voices. Because when I was lip syncing, there's no talking, there's no voices.
Right.
And then I'm doing voices. And that just was this natural thing. I would make my friends laugh at school. And it was going way too easy and well. I'm super lazy.
To this day or at that time?
Always.
Yeah. I feel
While
that way about
being
myself.
focused and
know.
proactive, I'm also capable of being extraordinarily lazy, which is the weirdest fucking thing ever. And I hope it's yin and yang. I'm doing them both.
Right.
I'm being proactive and lazy in the same lifetime.
Yeah, the balance is productivity.
Yeah. So I think when the stand-up started to finally go well, and I rising through the stand-up scene in San Francisco, the late 70s, early 80s, I started to think, I got to move to LA and get on that acting thing. Now, I'd not taken an acting class. I hated school so much.
Me too.
That, and all the teachers just seemed bored. And also,
that's big for me too.
Yeah, and I thought, who's teaching an acting class? I think a non-working actor. Because if they're working, they don't have time to teach a class.
Yep.
So who am I learning from?
Right.
Also, if I'm honest, if I attend an acting class, I could find out that I'm no good at it from this teacher who says, you're horrible, don't come back. I don't need his rejection because I don't know if I can trust it. But also I'm just too insecure to want to hear it. So I'm just going to start to go to auditions. How do you do that? I don't know. I meet some other comedians in LA who had befriended me when they came through San Francisco. And they said, oh, yeah, just work out at the Improv. Casting people come and see you, and slowly but surely I learned how to audition by auditioning. I learned how to act by being on a set.
Yeah.
Right? Learn while you earn. And I'm not proud of the fact that I never went to an acting class.
Not at all?
Not one. But it's just how
It says something about yourself, though, by not having done it.
But again, I don't take anything away from the fact that I did not want rejection, and acting class represented another form of rejection.
And what if you had, though, and you did get a shitty teacher who did make you feel like this was pointless?
Well, I don't know. All I know is that I
think it's a good path you went.
Well, it worked for me. I don't know if it's a good path for anyone else.
No, it's only you, just like
but
you
I
said.
protected myself from potential rejection.
Right.
And again, I first said, I hate school so much I don't want to attend a class on how to act.
Right.
That's also true, but I don't know if it's as true as allowing myself to be vulnerable. Also, I heard they make you pretend you're a tree in acting class.
It's the best.
And that was never happening.
Oh, yep. Some people don't like it. Okay.
It's the best. Yeah, that's the first time anyone's ever said pretending to be a tree is simply the best.
I remember I was at Roosevelt University getting my Bachelor of Fine Arts.
Yep.
I am 3 weeks removed from my farm town Rochelle, Illinois life, And now I am laying on a studio floor in a building in downtown Chicago.
Better believe it.
While a teacher named Dawn and a teacher named Eric have told me to close my eyes, breathe through my navel, and pretend I'm a piece of seaweed on the ocean floor.
Yeah, let's start with breathe through my navel.
And I was like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
Now, if that, remember how you said this is your own personal thing. Sam, what do you want to do? What does Kevin want? What is he doing today? He's the only person that can ask himself that, right? And actually do anything about it. If that gets people to a place where they're a better artist, great, whatever. But it was that deal where I'm now laying on this thing being like,
6 months before you were a football player.
right, what the fuck does this have to do with acting?
Right.
What are we
I'm
doing
here to
here?
score checks.
Yeah. Well, one of 7 straight guys in the entire program. It was more lack of options than it was ability.
Sure.
But it was that real thing of like, yeah, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah.
Can we just hand me like a Tennessee Williams play and
And
let me bounce around the stage and fake smack somebody?
right. And
Yeah.
tell me when I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Growing up in Rochelle, did you ever think you would someday be on the cover of the Rochelle News Leader E edition, where it was reported in 2013, if not heralded, that a RTHS graduate named Dan now an actor known as Dan Van Kirk, appeared in a tidy laundry detergent commercial that aired during the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I did.
And what? How did you see it happening?
You know what's funny? There's a few things to that.
Yeah, there are.
Where are you from?
I don't see how that's your business.
Okay, fair enough.
Born in San Francisco, raised in San Jose, moved back to the city.
It's funny the things that the people where you're from, your support system or your family or whatever, what they measure as success versus what it is.
Sure.
So the same week that Super Bowl had dropped, I found out I had gotten put on one of the sketch teams at UCB, one of the house teams.
Way bigger.
Yep. And no one I knew could give a fuck about that.
Except for the people that also made that team.
But I mean back in Rochelle.
Sure. Of course. No.
But the less than 3 seconds that I was on camera saying it's real during a Tide commercial during the Super Bowl, you'd think, well, he did it. He did it, guys.
Do you know James
Little Danny Van Kirk went out there and did it. Whereas what they don't know is, no, the thing I've actually done is gotten on this team at UCB. Much like when you find out you're a paid regular at the store. Or
whatever.
You're right. Yeah, that's what. I mean, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's so funny that that got, and I'm like, that isn't even.
It's on the cover of the E edition.
Well, I mean, a boy can dream. But I think
it is amazing. And in fact, Jamie, she always loves to. She never impressed by anything in show business. So she always and our families who have nothing to do with show business.
Right.
If I'm on an episode of NCIS, that's real show business.
Shut it down. Yeah.
If I'm on a Amazon Prime series that won a Golden Globe.
And is heralded by every person who's watched it and the people who've been told to watch it.
That's not show business.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes. Yeah. No, again, the perception, right? I worried about hosting this game show, and then I did, and then people come up to me, I love that show. Oh, my God, I love that show. And all I was thinking of,
I did that to keep
you're
the lights
that
on.
actor guy in all those movies, and now you're going to be the guy hosting this game show. And it's because they said you could improvise on primetime television.
Yeah.
We'll give you the rules, but you can also completely fuck off during the entire show.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, we're going to record 10 episodes in 5 days. So you'll make 10 paychecks in a week of a primetime television show.
A lot of donuts.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's house buying money.
Right.
So I justified it.
Sure.
Hey, I can improvise it. And they also point out Johnny Carson started his career in a game show, and Groucho Marx ended his career in a game show. And I said, well, I'm neither one of those places. So a lot of trepidation.
Right.
But I just said, I'm going to make the donuts on this one. And if it's a big success, this is what I'm going to be doing for a while. And if it goes away.
But that ability that they gave you you wouldn't be confined into something, that your personality, who you are, so that somebody in the industry or even yourself could look at that and be like, oh, I like that guy.
Right.
Rather than like, oh, he did a good job flipping that tile.
Well, not the industry, but America, real people don't care what you do as long as they like it.
That's a good point.
It does not matter if it's a commercial, a game show, Academy Award nominated film, and everything in between. They don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
It just matters that they like it. You may think it's art.
Right.
You may think it's beneath you.
Right.
In their eyes, those thoughts don't exist.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Right.
So then it's a matter of what do you want to do? Spend as much time as you can focused on that, on what it is you actually want to be creative at doing.
Yeah.
Sam wants to create a comic.
Right.
And
cartoon.
Yeah, a cartoon. And that's unbelievably exciting,
Yeah.
right?
I got excited hearing him say it.
I do too, because it's a magical world that he's going to create from nothing. Have you ever sat in a room and decided to write fiction? Not for your act or a sketch?
Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
It's an extraordinary
I got a couple scripts.
experience.
That's what I think. That's what was always my biggest. I never got big into Star Wars.
Right.
But the idea that one guy thought up all that stuff. That's what I felt like when I went and saw Hamilton.
Yeah.
One guy was like, I want it to kind of be this story told in this way with this music and be about this. And I'm like, one fucking dude thought up all of that. That's the part that always gets me excited.
Right.
That it just came from somebody's mind.
Yes.
And to answer your question, yes, I did. I did think that about being in a Super Bowl commercial someday. Not that specifically, but don't you feel like we're all a little delusional?
Yes, you have to be.
You have to be.
Yeah.
So if you didn't move to New York or LA thinking that you will be on a stage someday holding a trophy, then get the fuck out.
Yeah, if you hadn't practiced that in the mirror in your bathroom
Yeah, what are you doing?
at any point, if you haven't already come up with the funniest acceptance speech, remove yourself.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear mine?
Yeah.
Okay. And which should I go with? Emmy, Oscar? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And the Emmy for Best Supporting Actor in a Comedy goes to Kevin Pollak. Crowd applauds because they have no choice.
Of course, right. They're on camera.
I go up on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Wow, man, did you get this one right?
Good joke.
I would like to thank the members of the Academy, but specifically the ones who voted for me. Those of you who didn't, what does this feel like? To be that wrong. Yeah, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I will then thank,
of course,
the real people,
right,
the writers and directors and co-stars and Jamie and my family.
Yes.
And get the fuck off. But yeah, I mean,
but we all want.
If you hadn't practiced that, if you hadn't come up with something,
did you play sports?
Yes, because I'm so old. Even though I'm short, when I went to high school, they had a lot of sports programs at school. So they had a basketball organization that toured just like on the bus, like varsity.
Yeah.
For little fucks.
Really?
Yeah, C&D basketball it was called. And the D basketball was 5'6" and smaller.
This is great.
And the C basketball was 5'6" to 5'10". And again, we traveled in this. You had to wear a tie, the same way the varsity team traveled. We went to the same schools, and so for a little fuck to compete on a serious level where people are attending games and they're only 5'4" in high school playing basketball, so what do they call them? Suicides or red blacks?
Which ones?
You're running on a gym and there's the red line, the black line.
We call them ladders.
Ladders, okay. Yeah. So you go a quarter of the distance of a basketball court and back. You go to half court and back. 3/4 back, full length and back. So they were called red blacks because that's where the lines were on the gym. And I remember I was not a runner in life. I did not have great stamina. I was Charlie Hustle and liked to trick passes and so on. Had a decent jump shot for a little dude. But these red blacks just fucking broke me. Like, you would line up on the line, the whole team, and the coach would say, all right, go. Whoever wins sits down.
Yep.
First to win sits down.
Yep.
And everyone would try their ass off on that first one and the second one. And then it suddenly dawned on me, well, you're not going to win the first 5, so fucking relax. After getting these huge side aches.
Oh, they're the worst.
These side aches that burning side, burning side aches. So my greatest achievement in my 3 years of playing C&D basketball was
that 6th red and black?
Nope. My first year, if there were 15 guys on the team, I would finish 13th, 14th, or 15th on the Red Blacks. And our team was 1-14. My second year, I would finish in the middle of the pack in the Red Blacks, and we were 7-7. And my senior year, I was the guy that nobody tried the first time out.
That's awesome.
Because I was going to win every time.
You're a worker.
I led the league in steals and assists as a 5'4" kid playing basketball in high school.
Yeah.
And the life lesson of apply yourself, dumb fuck.
Right.
This isn't just passing the time. This isn't a fucking rehearsal. This is it.
Right.
Even though no one sat me down and said any of those words, and it took me many years to look back on it and say that about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my memory of
I think that sports helps so much in this industry because it also gets you to be able to forget the last play.
Yeah.
Where you're like, fuck it. We got to keep going. It doesn't.
Well, that's a great one I'd never heard.
We just
forget the last play.
Yeah, because you can't in sports. Otherwise, you're going to lose the next play too because you're still fucking looking back at the other one.
Yeah.
And that ability, I think, to me is huge. It also, I don't know that it's always served me, to be completely honest, but being in a writer's room or something creative, sports a lot of times gives you the ability to call something exactly like it is. So that you could grab me by the face mask or the shoulders or the jersey and go, I need you to stop fucking this up. And I'm not taking it personally that you're telling me what's happening on the court. I just need you there.
Yeah.
Get there. Or tell me you can't get there. And so in a lot of collaborative efforts, it's allowed me to be very honest with people.
Right.
I've had to get better about knowing your audience, that not everybody went through those experiences or is good at being like, we got to write a fucking better joke here. There's a better way to say that to certain people. But at least the way I can take things in on any level, somebody can be like, it's just not good enough.
Right.
I'd be like, yeah, you're right. Because you've dealt with that in game, in real life, where you're just seeing yourself get beat. Like I wrestled until I blew my knee out. I wrestled for 9 years. And like going against one other person,
right?
And you cannot beat them. It's just not going to happen. So learn from it and then hopefully take it to the next one because this one's done.
Yeah.
The other reason I asked you about sports is I think that like coming off of acceptance speeches and award shows and things like that we hold those moments obviously because of the recognition, like so important to us as people who create, but also everything we do in our career is a process. One thing begets one thing. Like if you're lucky, the oven's just slowly getting turned a little hotter with everything. And then sometimes you feel like it's off. And then sometimes you feel like it's actually turned cold and you try to like get it hot again. And then sometimes it gets really hot for a while. But it's always a progression that usually like when you audition for the thing, yeah, you felt like you should get a call back. Then you get the call back and then you're like, well, that doesn't mean you booked it. And then you book it and then you shoot it. And then you wonder, am I going to get cut out of it? And then by the time you get paid for it, you're not really ever celebrating anything anymore because you've gone through it. You were already prepared to not actually happen. That there's so few times in our career where we get what happens in sports. When you win the race or when you win the game, that's it. You won it. That when you get handed the Emmy or the Golden Globe or your life, it goes from before that point to after that point like that. Whereas so many other things we do is such a gradual process, getting your movie directed to actually be happening and then shooting. And then by the time it's done, you never really had the moment of like celebrating you're going to make your movie because you needed to do something.
Yeah. Well, I to this day say, I don't believe I'm actually directing the movie until
right after it's done.
I'm at the premiere.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's not even on the set, which is the first phase.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's when you've made it, when people get to see it. Because like you just said, our families and our friends and our childhood, they consume things once they're out there. And anything in between they don't know how to measure it and it doesn't matter to them. So if you have those moments, which is why I love the Oscars and the Emmys, the pomp and the circumstances all, just paper thin. But the emotion of what that means for a person.
Yeah.
Yesterday,
right,
they were an actor, and now they're an Oscar winner. Is we don't get that doesn't exist in our career.
Right.
Where you get like, boom, this. But that you get that in sports every day.
Right.
You started the race. Now you won it.
Yeah.
You know, you want to go do another race. But yeah, so that's why I think sometimes we think about those things so much because it's just a moment where you're like, that just happened.
Yeah.
It went from not happening to happening like that.
It's important to point out one thing in the several positive and amazing things you just said, and thank you, which is you really need to focus on the journey and not
100%. That's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it for the journey, but we don't get so many celebratory moments.
Well, but maybe take that to heart and say, take those celebratory moments.
I have a hard time with it.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Take the few that come and present themselves to you as, fuck, I can't believe we just wrapped on that sketch we wrote and thought was funny. I can't wait to get to editing.
Yeah.
And then celebrate that you finished it and handed it in and someone said, this is fucking great.
Yeah.
Don't
That's
wait.
good advice. I'll try
Don't wait
better
for
at
any dinners in your honor or trophies.
Yeah, you're right.
Because, and I struggle with this all the time, because if you're focused, if you're proactive, then you're constantly moving the thing forward. Mm-hmm. You're not stopping in the middle of the field to talk about this moment at the drugstore that you completely made up.
Yeah, exactly.
Where the wind is the enemy.
Yeah.
And the evil villain is the wind.
I know.
Yeah, there's no it's just such emperor's clothing to me that just, how did that not stop? How did that train not stop at some point? It just shows you truly what the business is capable of in terms of no one wants to point a finger at themselves.
Right.
No one wants to take credit for bad news. What do they say? Success has many mothers or parents, and failure is an orphan.
Yeah.
And so during that journey of M. Night, just brilliance after brilliance after brilliance, and then getting to what is happening.
Right. And then once you get Wahlberg attached to it, then who's going to tell either one of them this sucks?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he was asked
No one.
like 2 years later, why did he do that movie? You know what his answer was?
Please.
I got to play a teacher. I'm a cop in every other fucking movie. You don't want me to do a movie where I can't be a teacher? So he was excited at the idea of just like, hey, you're not a cop in this. Trust, it's another M. Night project. Trust that it's going to be good. Even if it feels weird, it ends up coming together.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right, I'll fucking do it then.
Right. I also love that the whole thing might have escaped him in terms of what the point of the story was. And rather than ask questions to M. Night, he said, this guy's a fucking genius, and just kept moving forward.
Yeah. And is M. Night going to tell him, we need to do that again? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? There's like 3 emperors, right?
The wind is the fourth.
I agree with you.
How often are you doing the Wahlberg Solution?
Once a year at Sketchfest.
That's it.
Yeah.
But that
might have been the last one.
The new podcast, Dumb People Town.
Yes, the Sklar Brothers and I.
How long's that been going on?
There was a different incarnation of it that ran for about 5 years called Scarborough County.
Yeah, of course.
But as it is now, Dumb People Town has been running for just over a year.
And we saw it live. That was my introduction to it.
Oh, really?
At Sketchfest. Yep.
I didn't know you saw it. Did we talk after the
We
show?
were in the audience. I didn't want to,
Oh, my God. I would have just brought you up.
I think one of my favorite things about Sketchfest is book myself in several things and then attend way more things.
Yeah. I saw one of the best sketch shows of my life that's at Sketchfest like 4 years ago. I had no clue who the people were that were in it. I don't know their name, but I remember things they did on stage, and I'm like, that is inspired. That is genius.
Yeah. The group that Rob Corddry and Paul Scheer sketch group that they were in.
Yes. Was Manzukis in that too?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is 4 or 5 years ago too. They got together to do maybe they were an improv group, not a sketch group. And I think it's what led to The Giant or something.
Oh, Human Giant?
Human Giant, yeah.
With Hubel.
Yes, those guys.
Yeah.
So in the middle of this improv, they were in maybe a barber shop, and Rob Corddry decides to give himself a broom. So he's cleaning up a little bit. while the sketch is going or the improvisation's going on. And then at some point, he took the broom and put it over his shoulders and slung his hands over the ends of it. I don't know if that plays as a description, but you're seeing me do it, so you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm getting full effect.
That visual of just him making that choice, of just having that broom on his shoulders, what stays with Jamie and I 5 years later and will never leave.
That's the best.
Yeah. I don't know where. Oh, Dumb People Town. So yeah, my introduction was there. I like to go see shows, and
we have to have you on it.
well, what's interesting is that yes, please, anytime. When I did Talkin' Walkin', I would go and search out similar stories.
Oh, like
to create the minutia of what the conversation was going to be. So I was already a fan of doing that.
yeah.
And was in a process of creating an idea for a new podcast that leans towards kind of a hybrid of small town crime, but also small town inspirations. Because I'm fascinated with Forensic Files. City Confidential might have been an early favorite. Do you remember that one at all? Well, you remember, if you do, from the guy's voice. A very famous actor did the voice. Savannah, Georgia was a sleepy little town. People came and people...
I think I have
Paul
seen this.
Schofield, I want to say the actor. People came and people went. You could get a good malt at Larry's General Store.
Oh, they paint a picture.
Yeah. But things changed on September 17th.
It's like Keith Morrison. 2020?
Yeah.
What about that sock? That sock held more answers than anyone would know.
Yeah.
And it would have been forgotten, too.
Yeah.
But for one cop who wouldn't give up when Where's My Daughter returns. Like it's always the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've been fascinated by small town murder because it's usually somebody wants early payment on an insurance policy.
Oh, yeah. They're always easy to solve,
They
too.
want to get out of a bad marriage. The neighbor pisses them off.
Yep. A business partner dispute.
It's amazing when the police investigation begins and the cops do their testimonials as part of the making of the show, and they say, well, it's always best to start with interviewing the family and friends of the deceased. And you know, after several of these, you're like, well, yeah, because it's always one of them.
Yeah. Very few people are killed by someone they didn't know.
Right, which makes those kind of podcasts we were talking about, true crime podcasts, where my favorite murder stuff, where it's mostly strangers.
Yes.
And it's mostly, oh, fuck, this could be me tonight.
Yes.
And it does change your perspective when you listen to those things. I won't listen, like I have one of those things that you put in the shower to listen to podcasts and shit. I won't listen to one of those when I'm in the shower.
A gramophone.
Why would you gramophone? That's right. Yeah. I have it's a small bird from the Flintstones. And when the shower's over, he looks towards camera and says, "It's a living."
I'm making the donuts.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to listen to small town murder dramatic retelling podcasts while I'm in the shower alone in the house. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Right. So
So
the theater of the mind in these things. So I've been toying with this hybrid of and I'm getting closer to doing a podcast called Wonderfully Strange. I even went to the point of getting wonderfullystrange.com. So fuck all y'all out there who are gonna attempt to steal this. And so when I saw Small Town, or rather Dumbtown People, it reminded me of what I already loved. But then also just the riffing aspect of how fucking stupid are these people. And now this is what funny people at a party would do anyways if somebody said, did you read?
That's the goal.
I just saw this online. This fucking guy with the garage. He was living above the garage and it burned down. I think that was one of the ones you guys did when we came and saw.
Oh, yeah, we were. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that guy's name?
So then, but you guys also have the photos that you throw up on when you do the live tours and stuff. So it's crazy fun, right?
Yeah, it's the most fun. That's what I want people, and we've heard back from this a lot, to feel like they are on average, because we usually have one guest at a time, they are the fifth person in a group of 5 people just hanging out. That if you and I and the Sklar's were standing around a empty casino table at a speakeasy in San Francisco, and we're like, did you fucking hear about that this is the conversation they would hear? No, it's obviously amped up a little bit because we're performing, but we would have that conversation anyway, just like you were saying.
And you would try to make each other laugh.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
And we would go way off and then come way back. Like, oh, no, you didn't even hear the end. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, yeah, that is 100%. I want people to feel like they're hanging out with their friends.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And people can find that wherever they get podcasts.
Wherever they get podcasts. Dumb People Town. Every Tuesday, and then mini episodes, which is just one story, so it's no different, just a smaller snack on Fridays.
And you have a website where people can go and check out the tour dates because you guys tour with this show.
Yeah, everything's up on the Dumb People Town Facebook page.
Right.
Yeah. And we will be in Brooklyn Sunday, February 25th at the Bell House Theater. And that show might have already sold out.
Right.
But that shouldn't stop anybody from hearing this to go check because there might be a ticket left.
Okay. It's now time for the Kevin's Pop Quiz.
Okay.
Between 5 and 15 points possible for each of the 3 questions. Once the final score is tabulated, it will be posted on our website along with the current standing among the top 100. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Question number 1.
Okay.
Sammy Davis Jr. or Ann B. Davis?
Sammy Davis Jr.
Correct. Carl Weathers or the weather in Carlsbad?
Oh, Carl Weathers.
Correct. Last question. Keith?
Carradine.
So close.
Moon.
2 and 3.
Damn it. It's Moon, isn't it? It's Morrison? Jackson. And the real girl? I just went deep on Keith. Much deeper than I thought I could go.
Much deeper than anyone has. And by the way, wasn't looking for a last name. That's where you derailed yourself.
Damn it.
I know. I gave you this or that, the first 2. The last one was just this. Keith?
Yes.
There we go. Wow. That's the 3rd correct answer. Damn it. You did so well. And lastly, Oscar picks. This is the time of year where everyone has an opinion. Do you have one? Do you care?
I would like to see Willem Dafoe win for Florida Project. Did you see the movie?
I did.
And you?
Don't agree.
You don't like it.
Well,
because nothing happens?
Well, no, it's not that. It's I'm not annoyed by Willem Dafoe when he plays strange characters in movies and now so relieved that he's playing someone so real and therefore think it's astonishing. I think it's a non-performance, which is all I do, by the way.
It's like the guy who keeps yelling is now whispered and everybody's like, whoa, holy shit.
Fuck, what range?
Yeah, I get you.
Well, so now
that makes sense.
But all I can do is throw it away. I mean, they teach in acting class less is more, right?
How do you know?
How do I know what? That they teach that?
Yeah.
Because someone pointed out to me that I was already doing a technique.
Oh, wow.
Another great
that's
Chicago.
How you know. That's how you know, man.
It is.
Really? I'm dead serious.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's all I can do is nothing. So when I said in Avalon I was comfortable in front of the camera, I was comfortable doing nothing. I wasn't comfortable trying to do something.
Have you played an eccentric?
Yeah, and when I play an eccentric, I don't swing for the fences. I'm uncomfortable on film playing a cartoon.
Yeah.
Because some part of me has to believe what the fuck I'm saying.
For you.
For me.
Yep.
For me.
And it comes through your performance.
Otherwise, and I'm also worthless after about 3 or 4 takes.
Really?
Because now I just hear myself acting. Because I'm saying the same words. If you could have me say something a little different each time, then I could connect to it with some real tissue.
Put you in it.
Yeah. But now I'm just saying the exact same thing, which is why I could never do theater, 8 shows a week. No.
I think you've changed my perspective. Not that I haven't changed on how good I feel Willem Dafoe does, and you're not arguing that he doesn't do good.
Not
you're
at
just
all.
saying
I'm not blown away by him being real.
Right. That's what I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just
because when I see
the scene where the creeper guy, that's me. 100.
Yes.
That's me 100%. What's going on over here?
Right.
And I watched it with someone and they said, "Oh my God, that's 100% what you would do." Oh, you're getting a drink? You want to get a drink? All right, come on, let's go. Let's get you a drink, buddy. But I think also maybe that's even in the structure of it that he's the only grounded person. He seems to have some of his own little shit going on, but he's the only grounded person. So you, as an audience, you cling to him
for sure
because he's the life raft.
Also,
in this sea.
the only really decent person who cares about other people.
Yeah, that's what I'm
and that's you.
So I hope so. I try. But I think that is, so from an audience, you are almost conditioned by the story to want more of this guy so much.
Yeah.
Which is good storytelling. Then you've been manipulated through a story.
Sure.
Somebody did a good job.
The young woman who plays the girl's mother.
Yes.
If you told me she was a Broadway theater actress, I'd say, well, then that's the greatest performance that's ever been done.
But if you told me that is her life, not her life, but she was found on Instagram and is a person who's very comfortable just kind of like being out there, you'd be like, oh, so they got her to be herself on camera, which is a feat in and of itself, but
it's not.
She's not acting really.
Right. It's
She's
cinema verite,
performing.
and it was fine.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen 3 Billboards. I haven't seen.
We were lucky we saw that early before it got hyped.
I haven't seen The Shape of Water.
Favorite movie of the year.
Okay. I was going to ask you which one I should
It's just
watch
magical.
next.
It's a fairy tale. And I was having dinner the other night with someone who kills me and makes me laugh really hard. And he says, yeah, but how did and he starts talking logic. And I went, it's a fairy tale.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to, and I do fall on the side of, but because plot holes make me a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it's so well done, I just get lost in it and I forget plot holes.
Well, yeah, good story wins.
Yeah.
If you make me care, if you don't make me care about any person, it's hard for me to like a movie.
Got to emotionally connect to somebody.
Did you see Killing of a Sacred Deer?
No.
I'd be really interested to hear what you thought of it.
What did you?
They just made a movie. I didn't give a shit about anybody.
Right.
But if somebody else tells me here's why I loved it, I'm not going to argue with them.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, all right.
Right.
But I just didn't ever give a shit about anybody.
Right.
And I can't.
That's a killer for me, too. There's so much great content now in television, over 450 scripted shows.
Yeah.
Have you seen The Patriot on Amazon? Are you prepared to have your life changed?
Sure.
Without any religion or
Really?
Tupperware?
Really?
Patriot.
Okay, I'll check
Didn't
it
get
out.
a lot of hype. Only one season. I heard they got season 2 that they're going to make. It's like Soderbergh and the Coen brothers got together and made a TV show.
No shit.
That's what it made me feel. The tone is astonishing. The performance, the capturing, the execution. I beg of you. Patriot. At the center of it is espionage, but there's this weird, quirky, dark storytelling that is just magnificent. It's just on another level. But that's some of these scripted shows that are a show like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you find anybody? I can't wait to come on the Dumb People Town.
Oh, God,
and Quid Pro Quo.
Of course.
So let me know about that.
I will,
can't
for
wait
sure.
to find out about my part in Sam's new. Are we comfortable saying cartoon, animated show? What do you want to call it?
Yeah, cartoon is good.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And what would you liken its ilk, its milieu, to any existing cartoon?
Maybe.
Intervention.
Do you remember Duckman?
Duckman.
Oh, yeah.
Good Lord, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Nice.
I can't wait to hear more about it.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, Dan Van Kirk.
Thanks.
Sure. And for those of you out there, write to us again, kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. Thanks to Corey Levin for post, all the folks here at Earwolf. Until next time, and as always, get out of my face.